Hi, my name's Sophie, and my mother kicked me in the belly while I was 8 months pregnant. It happened in front of our entire family, at my own baby shower, right after I exposed her for stealing my baby fund. No one stood up, no one said a word. They watched me fall, then looked away. But what she did after that, what she said in front of a camera, broke something in me I can't glue back. You think you know what a good mother looks like? What if the most dangerous betrayal didn't come from an enemy, but from the woman who raised you? What would you do if your own mom turned into your biggest threat? It took us 7 years of injections, of prayers, of heartbreaks so quiet they didn't even echo. But then it happened. I got pregnant. We called it the Hope Fund. Just a shared bank account, nothing fancy, but it meant something. Every paycheck, we'd put in a little diapers, car seat, that ridiculous giraffe lamp I swore I didn't need but wanted anyway. Dawson set it up, but I gave my mom access. Marjorie had always been the practical one, the kind of mother who brought lemon cake to funerals and filed taxes for neighbors. She was involved. She was trusted. I thought it was symbolic, really, letting her help. A bridge between generations, or some sappy thing like that. I didn't think much of it until one afternoon, curled up on the sofa, scrolling through the account. The last deposit from my teaching job was there, but the $500 from Dawson, gone. I refreshed the app. Again. Maybe the app glitched. It happens. Maybe we forgot to log it. Maybe it was pending, but by dinner, it still wasn't there. It's probably just bank processing delays, I muttered out loud. No one was in the room, except the silence. That heavy kind of silence that doesn't sound like peace at all. I've always been the easy child. That's what people used to say. At church, at school, even in front of me. Sophie's the sweet one, never complains. My brother Ryan? Oh, he was the potential. I was the cushion. The one who didn't cost too much or talk too loud. Marjorie liked it that way. She didn't yell. She sighed. You know I only want the best for you, she'd say. That phrase, it's a leash disguised as love. 3 days after the first missing deposit, I noticed another one gone. This time, $300. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the contact button. What was I even going to say? Hey, Mom, did you steal from your pregnant daughter? Even thinking it made me feel like I was being dramatic. So I did what I always do. I second-guessed myself. Did I spend it on groceries and forget? Was there some auto pay setup that we missed? Could Dawson have? No, he wouldn't. Would he? That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling for so long I forgot I was blinking. Dawson was snoring softly beside me. I reached for my phone again, rechecked the transactions. Still gone. My stomach twisted, not from the pregnancy, but from something darker. That cold, creeping question. What if I knew exactly where it went, and just didn't want to say it out loud? It was a Wednesday when I asked her. Not directly. God forbid I be that forward. We were standing by the fridge. She was rearranging the juice like she lived here. I said, Hey, did you notice any bank issues lately? Some deposits have been weird. She didn't even look up. Are you sure Dawson's not moving things around? Men panic about money sometimes, especially when they think the baby's coming too fast. I froze. Not the kind where you need a coat, but the kind where everything inside you just stops. Why bring up Dawson? Why not just say no? I forced a laugh. No, he's good about keeping me in the loop. She smiled, like someone who knows something you don't. Well, you'd be surprised what men do when they're scared. The subject dropped. She moved on to talk about the pastor's wife and the community garden, but something in me didn't unfreeze. That night, I stared at my phone again. The bank app now felt like a stranger's diary I wasn't supposed to read. and my mother's name listed as a shared user. It stared back at me like a secret hiding in plain sight. I didn't sleep that night. It wasn't just the fund. It wasn't just her voice. It was the fact that I couldn't trust my own mind. In the morning, I called the bank, played dumb, asked about pending deposits. The woman on the line was polite, but firm. All deposits have cleared. Nothing's delayed. After I hung up, I sat at the kitchen table with my journal, the same one I'd used after the last miscarriage. I wasn't writing poetry or gratitude lists. I was writing questions. Why didn't I ask her sooner? Why am I this afraid? Why does this feel familiar? The nurse I saw a few months ago had said something that stayed with me. Women don't always realize when their intuition is screaming. I stared at that sentence in my notes like it was written in bold. The sun dipped low, casting a gold haze across the countertop. I reached for my phone again, almost on instinct. Bank alert. One new withdrawal. $2,000. From a jewelry store. The address? 3 blocks from my mother's condo. The following Monday, I had my routine OB appointment. Nothing major, just heartbeat checks and a quick rundown of my weight. Dawson offered to go, but I told him I'd be fine. I needed the space. A quiet drive, something predictable, normal. I hadn't felt much of that lately. When I got home, I wasn't surprised to find Marjorie already inside. She had a key, one I'd never officially given but somehow always had. She was standing at the kitchen counter, sipping from one of our mugs, talking to the cat like she lived there. On the chair behind her hung a brand new handbag. Deep brown leather, gold hardware, the kind you only saw in magazines or worn by women who lunch midweek in Scottsdale. "You like it?" she said, noticing my eyes on it. "Little treat for myself. You know how it is. Being good for too long makes you forget you're allowed nice things." After a dry laugh, I joined her at the table. She'd already laid out leftovers from her place and started warming up soup. I tried to pretend this was normal, just lunch with my mom, but then, during cleanup, something slipped from her purse, a folded slip of paper that fluttered onto the floor, landing just next to my foot. A receipt. It was from a boutique I'd passed near her building, a small, independent jewelry store. The total? $2,000. The date? Last Thursday, same day as the last withdrawal. She didn't notice I'd picked it up. I folded it silently, tucked it into my coat pocket, and said nothing. I smiled through dessert, kissed her cheek goodbye. And that night, alone in the bedroom while Dawson finished grading papers, I logged back into the baby fund. The number matched, every penny. That wasn't bank error. That wasn't pending transaction. That wasn't an accident. That was her. I remember when I was 14 and wanted to go on a school trip to Washington, D.C. Marjorie said we couldn't afford it, but the next week she bought a cashmere coat because it was half off and wouldn't go on sale again. She always found a way to justify taking what she wanted. "You think I don't deserve something nice after all I've done?" she'd snap. It always sounded like a statement, but it felt like a warning. When Ryan wrecked his car freshman year, the insurance only covered part of the damage. My college savings, gone overnight. "No one's saying you can't go to college," she said, "just not out of state. Besides, community college is good enough." And I said nothing, because that's what I was trained to do. But now I had receipts, screenshots, dates, bank statements, physical proof. I sat on the floor of our bedroom that night, folder open, piecing everything together. This wasn't just a pattern. This was her playbook. It hit me hard, like cold water to the face. All those years of thinking I was the lucky one, the easy child. I was just the one she could take from without a fight. And now I was pregnant. Now it wasn't just about me. The next morning, I told Dawson I needed to run a quick errand. I drove to the boutique, parked half a block away, walked in slowly, keeping my face composed. I told the saleswoman I was shopping for a push present, something special before my daughter arrived. She lit up. "Oh, congratulations! You know, we had a woman in here last week who bought a beautiful gold pendant for her daughter's baby shower. Said it was an act of love." My stomach twisted. "She mentioned her name?" I asked. The woman laughed. "Didn't need to. Everyone here knows Miss Hargrove. Lovely taste." I smiled, said thank you, then left. I sat in my car for 20 minutes. Didn't cry, didn't scream, just sat. She didn't just take. She wore it like generosity, like grace. By the time I got home, there were 2 new onesies on the doorstep. No note, no call, just a silent message. "Look how much I care." That night, I wrote and rewrote a text to her. Paragraphs of questions, of frustration. Nothing sounded right. Every version of me felt too soft or too cold. I deleted them all. Instead, I opened my pregnancy journal. What if protecting my child means unlearning everything my mother taught me? Dawson came in while I was still sitting at the kitchen table. He poured me tea and asked if something was wrong. "I don't know," I said. "I just feel like something's shifting." He didn't push, just sat beside me. After he went to bed, I pulled the receipt from my coat, added it to the manila folder, and labeled the front in black marker. Truth. Do not delete. I stood in front of the mirror before going to bed, studying the curve of my stomach, then my face, then my eyes. I searched for her in my reflection, but she wasn't there. The Sunday of the baby shower felt like a dress rehearsal for something I wasn't ready to perform. I remember sitting in the car for a moment before walking in, watching the pastel balloons sway under the breeze, each one tied with a gold ribbon like a promise I didn't trust. Marjorie had chosen the venue, the theme, the color palette. She even picked out the cake, 3 tiers of buttercream with fake eucalyptus leaves, the kind of thing people photographed but never finished eating. She was already inside when I arrived, front and center, holding court like it was her ceremony, not mine. "Sophie's always been the calm one," I heard her say as I stepped through the double doors. "Even as a baby, she never cried much. I guess she just understood the world early." People chuckled. I didn't. Dawson was near the back, talking with my aunt, holding our gift registry list like it was a map to escape. When he saw me, he came over, gave me a half smile, and asked softly, "You okay?" I nodded, though my hands said otherwise. My palms were slick, my fingers trembling. I adjusted the strap of my tote bag where the manila folder sat, thicker now, heavier, labeled in my handwriting, "Truth, do not delete." I didn't plan to use it, but plans change. It happened after the 3rd round of games, right around the time they passed out tiny plastic babies frozen in ice cubes and told everyone to shout, "My water broke," when theirs melted. I stood up, cleared my throat. Most people smiled, expecting a thank you speech. What they got was not that. "I want to say something," I began, calmly. Marjorie was across the room next to the gift table, mid-sip of cucumber water. She didn't look up. I pulled the printed receipts from the folder. The screenshots, the transaction dates, the boutique name, the timestamps. "This money," I said, holding the papers out, "was meant for my daughter's future, for her crib, her car seat, her formula." Now they were all looking. "My mother," I said, voice steady, "used it to buy herself jewelry, luxury bags, and not once did she tell me." She smiled in my face while taking from my unborn child. There were gasps. Someone's fork hit a plate. A few people shifted in their seats, but no one moved. Marjorie set down her glass slowly. "Is this what you do now?" she said. "Ruin your own baby shower because you didn't get a thank you note fast enough?" I didn't raise my voice. I just said the truth, straight. "You took from your grandchild, and you thought I wouldn't find out." Marjorie walked toward me like she was floating. No emotion on her face except something buried deep in her eyes, something hot and rehearsed. She reached out, slapped the papers from my hands. They scattered like dead leaves across the floor. "You ungrateful little liar," she snapped, then shoved my stomach. Not hard, but hard enough. I stumbled back, landed awkwardly in the folding chair behind me. One hand went to my belly, the other to the armrest. Dawson stood up fast, but not fast enough to catch me. Gasps filled the room again, but no one moved. A woman near the cake table picked up her phone. I saw her tilt it up slightly, camera pointed at us. Her finger hovered over the screen, and then dropped. She didn't record. Nobody did. I looked around. Familiar faces. Family. Church people. Neighbors who watched me grow up. All of them frozen. "She just kicked me," I whispered, but my voice didn't carry. Or maybe it did, and they just chose not to hear it. Dawson finally reached me, knelt down beside the chair. "Let's go," he said quietly. Marjorie had already turned away, walking toward the door, muttering something about disrespectful children and no class. No one followed her. No one followed me either. My aunt stood near the punch bowl. She looked at me for a long time before saying, "You shouldn't have done that to her. Not in front of everyone." Done that to her? I almost laughed. But nothing came out. My vision blurred. Not from pain, but something worse. That strange collapse inside your chest when you realize the people you thought might protect you won't even look at you. I didn't say goodbye. Didn't pick up the papers. As we walked out, I saw them scattered across the tile like discarded confetti. Pages that said everything no one wanted to read. The morning after the shower, I woke up feeling like I'd been thrown down a flight of stairs, even though technically I hadn't fallen. My body wasn't bruised badly, just a bit sore along my hip and a dull ache in my lower back. The doctor said everything looked stable. The baby's heartbeat was strong, but it was my head that wasn't right. I sat on the edge of the bed in my oversized t-shirt, watching the morning light creep through the blinds like it was trying not to wake me. My phone was where I'd left it, face down on the nightstand. Not a single missed call, not a "how are you?" Not even a text that said, "Are you okay?" Dawson came into the room, carrying a glass of water like he was offering peace after a war. He sat next to me, said nothing for a minute, then quietly asked, "Want me to call your aunt? Maybe just see where people are at?" I shook my head. A moment later, my phone buzzed. Aunt Carrie. I opened the message and read, "Next time, try not to air dirty laundry at a baby shower." I sent back a thumbs-up emoji, then powered off the phone. Later that afternoon, Dawson was cleaning up the kitchen while I sat on the couch with a heating pad pressed to my back. The TV was on, volume low, playing some courtroom show neither of us cared about. I heard the ping of his phone in the next room. He walked in a few seconds later, face blank, holding it up. "A group chat," he said. "Your family. Someone accidentally added me to it." He handed it to me. They were talking about me. "I mean, if she hadn't embarrassed her mom like that, none of this would have happened," one message said. Another chimed in. "Sophie always had a flair for drama. Remember that Thanksgiving?" I read each line quietly, like I was taking medicine that didn't work. It wasn't just Marjorie. It was all of them. Their loyalty wasn't about truth. It was about who kept the peace. Who kept the narrative clean, and I had dirtied it. Dawson reached for my hand, but I pulled it away gently. Not out of anger, just to hold my own hand for once. He said, "I can respond if you want. Say something." I shook my head. If they didn't see what happened with their own eyes, they're not going to hear it now. Then the thought came, not loud, not profound, just a quiet, sober conclusion. My silence wasn't protection. It was permission. That evening, I was brushing my teeth when I saw a message request pop up on Facebook. A woman named Kayla. No mutual friends. But I remembered her face from the shower. Sat by the punch bowl, didn't say much. Her message was short. Hey, I don't know if this helps, but I filmed part of what happened. I wasn't going to send it. I didn't know if you'd want it, but I thought maybe you should have it. Attached was a 28-second video. I tapped it. No sound, just motion. It showed Marjorie walking up to me, hand out. Showed her hitting the papers, shoving me, my stumble, my hand grabbing my belly. Dawson's rush forward. It was enough, not cinematic, not viral worthy, but real. I watched it 3 times, not to analyze, not to break it down frame by frame, just to remind myself I wasn't imagining it. It happened, and I didn't deserve it. The next morning, after Dawson left for work, I walked out to the porch to grab the paper and saw the manila folder on the doormat. No note, no knock, just there. Someone had picked it up after the shower and dropped it off like returning lost property, like it hadn't held the most raw truth I'd ever shared in my life. I brought it inside, sat at the dining table, and opened it. Still in order, slightly bent, but intact. I plugged in the flash drive Kayla had sent, watched the video again, saved a copy. Then I took a Sharpie from the drawer and wrote across the front. Not for revenge, for record. No courtroom, no argument, just fact. I didn't cry, didn't shake, but something in me solidified. I wasn't just someone's daughter anymore. I was someone's mother. I was reorganizing the bookshelf, trying to stay moving because staying still made everything too loud. The living room was quiet. Dawson was out running errands, and the air felt thick like it didn't want to move around me. I kept pulling baby books off the shelf, sleep training, breastfeeding, swaddling, and making little piles. Ones I'd read, ones I probably wouldn't. Then, behind a stack I hadn't touched in years, I found the old family photo album. I didn't even mean to open it. My hand just did it on its own. Near the middle, a picture slid out. Aunt Eleanor, my mother's older sister. Her eyes were softer than I remembered. She had a way of looking into the camera like she didn't trust it. She died when I was a kid, early 30s. Car accident, they said. But no one ever told me much else. And I never asked. I remembered one moment with her, though I was 9. God. We were on the porch at my grandmother's place, and she leaned in close like she was telling me a secret that would matter someday. Your mom's not cruel, sweetheart. She just holds on too tight. You'll understand when you're older. I think I just did. I stared at that picture for a long time, held it like it would fall apart if I blinked too hard. What really happened to her? And if the family never asked, what did they already know? The cemetery wasn't far. A short drive across town. I told Dawson I needed space, then grabbed a single white lily from the market and went. Eleanor's headstone sat beneath an old oak tree, weathered, modest. No flowers, no trinkets, just her name, the dates, and a sentence etched beneath. She was gentle, but that wasn't enough. I crouched down, wiped off a few leaves, then sat. I didn't speak for a while, just let the quiet press in. I thought about how many times I'd been told to just be nice, don't start something, keep the peace. I thought about the way silence gets passed down like it's a recipe. They broke you so quietly, they almost made it seem natural. And now here I was, sitting in the same silence they buried her with. Except I wasn't going to stay in it. I brought banana pudding with me, store-bought, but Ruthie wouldn't know the difference. She was sharper than people gave her credit for, even now. Old age hadn't dulled her eyes, just her willingness to fill the silence with things that didn't matter. She smiled when she saw me. Took you long enough to come see your grandmother? I needed a reason, I said. She nodded. And? I want to talk about Eleanor. Ruthie didn't blink, didn't shift, but her grip tightened on the blanket draped across her lap. Your mother would have a fit if she knew I told you anything. Mom's not here, I said. That hung in the air. Then she spoke. She was pregnant. Back then. Eleanor, I mean. My stomach twisted. I never knew. No one was supposed to. Your mother found out and made it a mission to fix her. Said she was ruining the family's name, that she'd raised her better than that. What happened to the baby? She disappeared for weeks. Came back. Different. Thinner. Quiet. I didn't ask again. She died a few months later. They said it was a car accident. That's what we told people. But she wasn't okay after what was taken from her. She looked at me then, not as her granddaughter, but as another woman. I stayed quiet too long, Sophie. Don't make my mistake. I held her hand, warm, worn, shaking, and then I left. Back at home, I opened the manila folder, started a new section, labeled it History. I printed out Eleanor's obituary, scribbled notes from what Ruthie said, found the headstone photo in my camera roll and added it. Then I opened my journal. This doesn't start with me. But maybe it ends with me. I sat on the edge of the bed, one hand on my belly. The baby kicked, soft, steady, certain. I whispered, "You don't come from silence. You come from a woman who broke it." The envelope was thick, certified, addressed to Dawson, but the return address was her attorney's office, Marjorie's. He handed it to me like it might bite. Inside was a letter that didn't flinch. She was invoking her rights to the apartment, said it was technically hers. A deed transfer filed when I was 22, back when she helped co-sign after my student loans defaulted. Back when I believed help didn't come with strings or chains. There was nothing warm in the language, no regret, no we need to talk, just vacate in 30 days. Dawson said he'd take it to a friend at the courthouse, see what we could fight. I shook my head. We're not spending the baby's money on lawyers, I told him. Not when we need a car seat. He looked at me like I'd already surrendered. But it wasn't surrender. It was strategy. She didn't want the apartment. She wanted control. And control was a currency I wasn't willing to spend anymore. By the end of the week, I was a trending hashtag, not by name, just by implication. Some teenager had uploaded a clip from the baby shower. No sound, just the moment Marjorie shoved me stumbling, me holding my stomach. The caption, "When family drama ruins a baby shower." The top comment, "She's clearly faking the fall." Another, "This generation can't take a joke. Probably just mad she didn't get the gift she wanted." And then, weaponizing pregnancy for sympathy. Classic. It didn't matter that they didn't know me. It didn't matter that it was real. They made me fictional, a character in their drama. And I couldn't breathe inside their version of my story. Dawson said we should release the full clip, all of it, the sound, the receipts, the timeline. I stared at him. Is it worth it? I asked, becoming a spectacle just to prove I wasn't lying. He didn't answer, because we both knew the question wasn't about the clip. It was about whether the truth still mattered once people had already picked their side. I stayed up that night, 2 a.m, my eyes burning, scrolling through the comments like they owed me something, some explanation, some defense, but they didn't owe me anything. The people who watched that video weren't interested in truth. They were interested in theater. And I realized my mother had done the same thing my whole life. Rewritten the script, painted herself noble, me difficult, and I had let her. The worst comment I read wasn't cruel, it was clean. It said, "She made it about her." I closed the phone, wrote in my journal. They didn't just deny what happened, They rewrote it. And then I wrote one more sentence, slower this time. This ends here. I got up, pulled the folder from the shelf, plugged in the flash drive from Kayla, reviewed every file, every screenshot, every date. Then I looked at Dawson. I want you to help me post it. He didn't ask which file. He already knew. We sat at the table, late Sunday morning, Dawson on his laptop, me on mine. The baby kicked now and then, steady, like punctuation. I recorded a voiceover. No drama, no tears, just truth. This is my version. It's not polished, but it's mine. We added the original clip, with sound, then the fund withdrawals, the lawyer letter, the grave photo from Eleanor's site. We edited it clean, no background music, no fancy transitions, just the sound of my mother's voice saying, "You're embarrassing me," and the silence that followed when no one stood up for me. I named the video, "The Cost of Silence." Dawson uploaded it to YouTube, enabled captions, shared the link with no commentary. I didn't expect the world to change, but I wasn't going to let it change me either. Before I turned off the screen, I stood up, walked into the nursery, and whispered to the wall, "Your mother won't be a whisper." The phone rang around 5. I almost didn't answer, but the name on the screen made me pause. Marjorie. I let it go to voicemail. Then, a minute later, she called again. Dawson looked up from the kitchen. I could feel his eyes asking without speaking. I nodded once and picked it up. Her voice was soft, softer than I'd heard it in years. "Sophie, I've had time to think," she said, letting out a sigh like she was already exhausted by the conversation. "And I'm sorry. I just felt blindsided, that's all." I didn't say anything. She kept going. "I was scared. Scared of losing you. You're my only daughter. And it's hard. Watching your child grow away from you. Make choices you don't understand." For a second, just one, I felt it. That old tug. The part of me still trained to bend. Dawson stood at the counter, back turned, but his shoulders stiffened. He was listening, not intruding, just waiting. "I know I wasn't perfect," she said. "But haven't I done enough to deserve a little grace?" There it was. And then came the ask. "Maybe you could consider taking the video down. For the sake of peace. It's tearing the family apart." I almost agreed. The call ended with her voice trailing off. "I love you, sweetheart. You'll always be my baby." I stared at the screen long after it went black. I didn't cry, but something inside me felt very, very still. That night, Dawson was sorting laundry when he noticed the blinking red light on the landline. "Missed call," he said. "Looks like a voicemail." I clicked it, played it on speaker without thinking. Marjorie's voice filled the room. "She really thinks I'm sorry," she laughed, and someone else laughed with her. "You have to fake humility to win these things. Give them the tears, give them the guilt, and let them bury themselves in it." I didn't move. Dawson froze. The laughter kept going for a few more seconds. Then a beep. Then silence. I rewound. Played it again. Same tone, same cadence, same voice that told me she loved me an hour earlier. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer, pulled out a pen, wrote down every word, printed it, slid it into the folder. Truth. Do not delete. This wasn't manipulation anymore. It was cruelty. And not the loud kind. The calculated, sharpened kind. The kind you can't excuse with phrases like, "she meant well," or "she's from a different generation." This wasn't a mother I could forgive. This was a woman who had forfeited the right to be one. I hadn't seen the bracelet since the shower. I found it under the nursery shelf while vacuuming, tucked between a stuffed elephant and an unopened box of pacifiers. It was dusty, bent a little out of shape, but the engraving still read, "Daddy's Hope." I sat on the floor, holding it like it weighed more than it did. I'd ordered it early in the pregnancy, before all of this, when I still believed the future was clean, untouched by history. I tied it to the mobile above the crib. It spun slowly as I sat back. "You'll never wonder if I loved you," I whispered. Not once. That night, I started a new video. Not to take Marjorie down, but to build something real. Photos from my childhood, snippets of the voicemail, screenshots of the fund withdrawals, the boutique receipt, the hospital report. I layered them with only one sentence. "This ends with me." When I hit upload, I didn't shake. The house was quiet. Dawson was making tea. The baby stirred once, then settled. I stared at the screen until the progress bar reached 100%. It was live. I didn't expect applause. I didn't want sympathy, but I hoped, deeply, that someone watching it wouldn't have to explain themselves twice the way I did. I picked up my journal, opened to the back page. Wrote, "Sometimes your loudest scream is the one you never make." Dawson came in with the tea. Set it down. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. At 11:48 p.m., my phone buzzed. 50,000 views in 6 hours. New comment. From her. The call came from a small station that ran on community pride and outdated cameras. A polite young woman asked if I wanted to issue a response to the viral clip. Apparently, my mother was scheduled to receive a Legacy Mother of the Year award that weekend. She spoke the title like it was carved into stone. I thanked her, asked for the email address where I could send a statement. Dawson sat across from me, laptop open, fingers hovering above the keys. "I want to do it on our terms," I said. He didn't ask what that meant. We built the video that night. Not dramatic, no swelling music. Just the facts. The shove, the receipts, the fund logs, the voicemail. I included Ruthie's note, her handwriting shaky, but steady enough to read the regret in every looped letter. At the top of the video, white text over a still frame. "You've heard her version. Here's mine." I scheduled it to go live an hour before the banquet. Set the timer. Shut the screen. Then I lit a candle in the nursery and waited. It didn't take long. By the time the second course was served at the banquet, phones were vibrating. Some politely ignored them. Others didn't. I wasn't there, but I didn't need to be. People began excusing themselves. First one couple, then another. A few messages hit my inbox, quietly worded apologies from women I hadn't spoken to since high school. "I'm so sorry," one said. "I didn't know. I should have seen it." Marjorie's speech was cut short. She was halfway through her usual story about raising kids the right way when someone stood up and left. Then another. She faltered, mid-sentence. The room changed. I sat on the floor of the nursery, watching the candle flicker. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel angry. I felt clean. Not empty, just clean. A viewer tagged me in a comment that night. That wasn't bravery. That was justice, done gently. It made me cry. Not because I needed approval, but because someone finally understood the point. The next morning, Dawson handed me his phone before I even poured my coffee. "She's been asked to step down," he said. Marjorie, from the city council board, from the non-profit she chaired, from the library fundraiser that had her picture on every brochure. No press release, just a quiet exit. Some still defended her, called it cancel culture, said the video was out of context, but most said nothing. And silence, I've learned, can be just as loud. Later that day, I received an email from an anonymous address. The message contained a thread of internal emails, Marjorie's damage control plan, talking points, media spins, and one line that stung more than the shove. She's using the pregnancy for pity. It's her only card. Another line, worse still. The baby was never about the child. It was always about control. I didn't post it. I could have. Instead, I printed it, folded it, and placed it in the folder. Not everything needs to be burned, I told Dawson. Some things just need to be buried. He didn't argue, because he knew I meant it. It was a sunny Saturday when I finally went outside without sunglasses. The farmer's market was full, noisy in a way that made the world feel normal again. I walked through the stalls without hiding. Some people looked, some didn't. A woman, late 40s, maybe early 50s, stopped me near the honey table. "You're her," she said. "From the video." I nodded. "I left home at 42, she continued. "My mom still tells people I overreacted." She smiled, tired but proud. "You gave women like me a voice." I smiled back. "We're not loud," I said. "We're just finally not silent." That night, after dinner, I took the transcript from the video and tucked it into my daughter's baby book. Next to the hospital bracelet, the ultrasound printout, the tiny footprint stamped on paper, proof that she came from truth, not from a woman who won, but from a woman who refused to lose quietly. The notary didn't ask questions, just handed me the form and pointed where to sign. Dawson held our daughter as I wrote out her new name, her real name, the one she'd carry on paperwork and mail and job applications, the one she wouldn't have to untangle later. I didn't feel triumphant, just steady. Present. The clerk looked up halfway through and asked, "Would you like to add a middle name?" I didn't hesitate. Eleanor. We walked out into the cool fall air, the sun slipping lower behind the storefronts. Dawson shifted her in his arms, cradled her close. I leaned in and kissed her cheek, then whispered, "Your legacy starts with freedom, not fear." And mine started over. Back home, I sat at the dining table while the baby slept in Dawson's arms. The letter wasn't long. I didn't want it to be. I wrote it for her to read one day, not when she was old enough, but when she was ready. I told her about the lies that wore kindness like a mask. The silence that wasn't safety. It was a prison. I didn't name names, didn't frame it as a warning. It was a map. "You will hear many voices," I wrote. "Make sure yours is one of them." I folded the paper neatly, slipped it into an envelope, labeled it "The First Truth," then tucked it into the back pocket of her baby book, right next to the transcript, right next to the night everything shifted. We drove to the cemetery that weekend. Just me, Dawson, and her, bundled in a soft yellow blanket that used to be mine. We stopped first at Eleanor's grave. I laid the lilies down, brushing off the leaves from the stone. A new plaque sat beside it now. Simple. Carved by a neighbor who watched my video and didn't say a word, just showed up on our porch with it and a nod. It read, "And the silence ended here." We stood there longer than I expected. The wind rustled, my daughter stirred, and for a moment, everything paused. Then we walked to Ruthie's plot. I didn't bring flowers. Just words. "I forgave you," I said quietly. "That was for me." Dawson didn't speak. He didn't need to. He placed a small photo beneath the stone. Us three in the backyard, sunlight in our hair. No ghosts here. Just grace. That night, I was finishing folding laundry when I found it again. The bracelet. Daddy's hope. It had slipped between folded onesies, like it had been waiting for its cue. I took it to the nursery, tied it to the mobile, then reached for the second one, the one I'd ordered last week, knowing I needed my own. Mama's Promise. They spun together above the crib, quiet, steady. I sat by the window, baby asleep on my chest, and opened my journal. This was never about revenge, I wrote. It was about voice. Then added below that, I may carry scars, but I also carry her, and that's what matters more. The room was still. I picked up a book and read aloud. Her first bedtime story. She didn't understand the words, but she felt the rhythm. And for the first time in a long, long while, there was no voice in my head trying to talk over mine.